And also, another problem I have with Breaking Dawn is they did up the stakes, but with no kind of conflict. And I mean, they got those power together, and it's not used. Why? And but honestly, the top thing that really angers me here, the top thing out of all the things to be angry about in the Twilight franchise, the top thing is basically the lack of consequences and how it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, I haven't read that many teen series things, and haven't seen all the movie franchises, teen franchises, but from what I've seen, from Harry Potter to the Hunger Games, even though they're for kids, they're pretty good at showing consequences. You know, the main character is faced with evil, generally, or just really bad circumstances, and they do what they think is right, and it shows what happens when you go up against something like that. Bad things do happen, like people do die as a result of these actions that they felt like they had no choice but to take. There are consequences. But in this case, Bella really easily seems to have her cake and eat it too, you know? She doesn't have to choose between Jacob and Edward. She doesn't have to tell her father she's dead and deal with the pain her actions would cause. She doesn't have to give up having a family, and she doesn't really have to face any real moral dilemmas or the ugliness really that comes with being a vampire. I mean, when one vampire shows off how he can manipulate elements in the water when it splashes down, the other vampires don't even get wet. That's how few consequences, that's how few the stakes, that's just shows like no consequences, no stakes really. But the movie does try to up the stakes with no consequences, and that makes the movie even more of an insult because they still felt the need to split it into two, and it doesn't really work on its own. So, but there is a but coming, as you can probably sense. Please bear with me and keep listening when I say this, because I can explain. They're already talking about relaunching the series if they did relaunch, you know, with all these, with the Hulk and Spider-Man and all that being relaunched, having relaunches within like five years after the original movie. They already talked about who would play all the roles if there was a relaunch, and please let me explain. I should probably take a drink of water because I have a lot of explaining to do. 1 second.
We're in a weird way, right, they couldn't because they're experiments. But in reality, it's like, we're like John Waters did a lot of
Okay, I would welcome a relaunch. Now let me explain. As I would welcome a relaunch, but as long as the relaunch focused on the real heroine in this story. Because Bella is not the heroine of this story, the hero, because she doesn't really do anything, but she is an important part of the story. She's the catalyst. Others kind of take care of the consequences of her actions. I mean, in fairy tales, the princess in the tower is an important part of the story, but she's not the hero. I mean, if the fairy tale were from her point of view, it would probably be pretty boring to just sit around in a tower or castle or whatever. So Bella's the princess in the tower, not the hero. And so when I say that, you probably want to know who is the real hero of Twilight. And I would say it's actually Alice, Bella's BFF, and the vampire with the premonitions. Just think about this. Who is able to save and warn her family repeatedly from the first book? You know, right when she saw the nomads coming? Alice. I mean, she not only sees the future, she takes action. She does something about it. And again, who brought Bella to Italy so she could save Edward just by showing up? Alice. And who is the real prize? The one that the Volturi are really after, which they say in both the book and the movie. Alice. The Volturi want her and her power. And who goes on her own to find out information about Renesmee to make sure that Renesmee will be okay, while also providing an avenue for Renesmee to escape in case it doesn't work out? Alice! She does everything. And uniquely, she wasn't made by the Cullens, Carlisle, the family patriarch. She wasn't made by him, so she was able to survive on her own for years. before he even came around. And so Alice is independent, she does things, she's quirky, she's fun, kind, welcoming, so very likable, but affected enough by her vampire nature to keep it interesting. And she's got a very interesting and amazing backstory, which they didn't go into in the movies, so which was a real shame. So, and although these things shouldn't matter in the franchise for teenage girls, they do. She's also beautiful, she's a good party planner, and she's very fashionable. So put all these things together and really you got the perfect heroine that not only teenage girls will like, but will probably draw in more people. So I just bet, how much more interesting would it be to have it narrated from her point of view while she's in Italy, while she's off seeking information in Brazil and seeing life in the future from her point of view and all that. So relaunch the Twilight series, but make her the hero. She is the real hero. And anyway, so what's my final verdict? Now that I've ranted, I still have to give this, well, a higher grade than a D, because when I was in the theater, everyone there, all the teenagers, really seemed to love it, and they had a really strong reaction. I mean, I heard one person say coming out that they could see it 30 times. 30 times! So while it doesn't leave anything for the rest of us, it does seem to perfectly satisfy its core audience. So, again, not the lowest grade, but still, I wish they'd have left a little tiny bit for the rest of us, the way the previous films did. So, final verdict? I'd say about a C-.